In the rigid, velvet-lined world of the British monarchy, jewelry is not meant to be fun. It is meant to be significant. It is a uniform. A diamond is a display of power. A pearl is a symbol of purity. For centuries, the rules of how to wear these treasures were written in stone, passed down from queen to queen with a solemn whisper, "Do not change anything." But in 1981, a 19-year-old girl walked into Buckingham Palace and picked up the rulebook. And then, with a shy smile that hid a backbone of steel, she set it on fire. This is the story of how Princess Diana took the dusty, rejected relics of the royal vault and turned them into icons of rebellion. And there is no better place to start than with the night she took a priceless piece of history and turned it into a disco headband. To understand the shock of the moment, we must first understand the weight of the jewel. This was not a trinket. This was Queen Mary's Art Deco emerald choker, a piece of the Delhi Durbar parure. Its origins are steeped in the height of the British Empire. In 1911, Queen Mary travelled to India for the Great Durbar, a spectacle of elephants, gold, and imperial dominance. The ladies of India presented her with a cache of emeralds as a tribute. Mary, a woman who believed that more is never enough, took these green stones to Garrard in 1921. She demanded something modern, something sharp. The result was a masterpiece of the Art Deco era, 14 large glowing cabochon emeralds, set horizontally in a rigid geometric frame of platinum and diamonds. It was a collar. It was designed to sit high and tight on the neck, forcing the wearer to lift her chin in an attitude of supreme, untouchable majesty. It was a jewel for an empress. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited it in 1953, she looked at this stiff green shackle and did what she always did with uncomfortable things. She ignored it. The Queen famously disliked chokers. She found the sensation of metal pressing against her throat suffocating. She preferred her jewelry to breathe. And so, for nearly 30 years, the Delhi Durbar choker lay in the dark. It was a relic of a bygone age, too severe for the 50s, too heavy for the 60s, and too imperial for the 70s. It was a dead piece. Then came the wedding of the century. In 1981, Lady Diana Spencer married the Prince of Wales. The Queen, perhaps seeing an opportunity to clear out the difficult section of her vault, presented the emerald choker to Diana as a wedding gift. It was a lifetime loan. One can only imagine the scene. A young, terrified Diana holding a box containing a jewel that was older than her father, heavier than her tiara, and carried the ghost of the formidable Queen Mary. It was a gift that came with an instruction manual implied by centuries of tradition. Wear it on your neck, stand up straight, don't make a fuss. For the first few years, Diana obeyed. We see photos of her in the early 80s, wearing the choker correctly. It looked lovely, if a bit stiff. It sat on her neck just as it had sat on Queen Mary's. She looked like a princess. But Diana was not just a princess. She was a chameleon. And by 1985, the shy Di was gone. In her place was a woman who was beginning to understand the immense power of her own image. The date was October 31st, 1985. The place was Melbourne, Australia. The occasion was a gala dinner dance at the Southern Cross Hotel. Diana had chosen a gown by her favourite designers, David and Elizabeth Emanuel, a striking one-shouldered creation in teal satin that shimmered like a peacock feather. It was bold. It was modern. She opened her jewellery case. There sat Queen Mary's heavy emerald collar. What happened next is a matter of royal legend. Some sources say it was a frantic accident, that in her rush to get ready, Diana tried to pull the choker over her head without undoing the clasp, and it got stuck on her forehead. She looked in the mirror, laughed, and decided she liked it. Others, perhaps closer to the truth, suggest it was a deliberate act of fashion anarchy. Diana knew the power of the unexpected. She knew that the 80s were the era of the sweatband, the aerobic craze, the breakdown of formal barriers. Whatever the reason, when the doors of the Southern Cross Hotel opened, the room went silent. There was the Princess of Wales, but she wasn't wearing a necklace. Across her forehead, blazing like the third eye of a chic goddess, was the emerald choker. It shouldn't have worked. It should have looked ridiculous. A priceless 70-year-old Art Deco antique worn like a tennis sweatband. It was a desecration of royal protocol. It was the kind of thing that would give a courtier a heart attack. But on Diana, it was magic. The emeralds highlighted the blue of her eyes. The diamonds caught the light of the cameras. It transformed her from a traditional royal wife into something entirely new. A fashion icon. A superstar. The press went wild. The headlines the next day didn't talk about the diplomatic speeches or the menu. They talked about the headband. In a single night, Diana had taken a piece of jewelry that represented the stiffest, most rigid era of the monarchy, and she had made it sexy. She had made it cool. It was a moment of punk rock brilliance in a tiara world. Behind the palace walls, the reaction was reportedly frosty. Queen Elizabeth, who revered the history of the collection, was said to be unamused. To the older generation, jewelry was not a toy. You didn't play dress-up with the crown's inheritance, but Diana understood something the courtiers didn't. She understood that for the monarchy to survive in the age of MTV and celebrity culture, it had to be relevant. It had to be exciting. By disrespecting the rules of the choker, she saved it. She rescued it from the dusty oblivion of the museum and thrust it onto the front page of Vogue. The legacy of the rebel. That night in Melbourne was the turning point. It was the moment the world realized that Diana would not be contained by the velvet ropes of tradition. If she could take a stiff, imperial collar and turn it into a symbol of freedom, what else could she do? The choker became one of her signature pieces. She wore it again and again, sometimes on the neck, sometimes, when she felt brave, on the head. It became a symbol of her duality, a woman trapped in a royal role, yet constantly finding ways to express her own vibrant, rebellious spirit. When Diana died in 1997, the emerald choker returned to the vault. It lay there for 25 years, radioactive with memory. No one dared to touch it. It was no longer Queen Mary's choker, it was Diana's headband. To wear it seemed impossible, but the story didn't end in the dark. In 2022, a new Princess of Wales, Catherine, walked onto a green carpet in Boston. Around her neck was the Delhi Durbar choker. She wore it traditionally, honouring its history, but the electricity in the air was undeniable. The emeralds were back. But if the headband was a playful rebellion, our next story is a declaration of war. Diana didn't just break the rules of fashion. She used jewelry to send a message to the very heart of the establishment. Next, we look at the most dangerous necklace ever made. The necklace that didn't just sparkle, it took revenge. In the language of jewelry, a pearl usually whispers. It speaks of modesty, of innocence, of a bride on her wedding day. It is the gem of the debutante and the grandmother. But in the hands of Diana, Princess of Wales, a pearl could scream. We often talk about the revenge dress, that little black chiffon number Diana wore the night Prince Charles admitted his adultery to the world. But we rarely talk about the weapon she wore around her throat that same evening. It was a necklace that should have been impossible. It was a construction of such audacious size and brilliance that it eclipsed the dress itself. And the story of its creation is the ultimate proof that Diana was not just a wearer of jewelry. She was a visionary who could take the dullest, most conservative gift and turn it into an instrument of war. This is the story of the 7-strand, pearl and sapphire choker. The origin of this piece is surprisingly humble, at least by royal standards. It began its life as a brooch. When Lady Diana Spencer joined the royal family in 1981, the Queen Mother, the matriarch of tradition, presented her with a wedding gift. It was a large, oval sapphire surrounded by a double row of diamonds. It was a beautiful stone, deep and blue, but the setting was undeniably old-fashioned. It was the kind of heavy, respectable brooch that the Queen Mother herself would pin to the lapel of a thick wool coat for a church service. It was static. It was safe. It was, frankly, a bit boring for a 20-year-old girl who loved Duran Duran. Diana, ever the polite granddaughter-in-law, wore it as a brooch a few times in the early years. We see photos of her with the sapphire pinned to her sash or her dress, looking dutiful and demure. But even then, you can sense that the jewel didn't fit her. It sat on her chest like a heavy paperweight of tradition. But Diana had an eye. She looked at that sapphire and saw something the courtiers missed. She saw the fire trapped inside the conservative setting. She knew that gems, like women, sometimes need to be liberated from their old roles to truly shine. Sometime in the mid-80s, Diana did something bold. She took the Queen Mother's brooch to the jeweler, but she didn't ask for a cleaning or a repair. She asked for a resurrection. She ordered the sapphire to be stripped of its pin. She then had it mounted as the centerpiece of a magnificent architectural choker consisting of 7 strands of lustrous pearls. This was not a subtle update. This was a complete reimagining. A 7-strand choker is a statement of immense confidence. It acts like a corset for the neck, holding the head high, demanding attention. It turned the grandmotherly brooch into a dazzling, seductive shield. When she debuted the new necklace, the transformation was shocking. The sapphire, once lost on a coat lapel, now sat right at the hollow of her throat, pulsing with blue light against her skin. The pearls glowed with a luster that softened the hardness of the gems. It was a masterpiece of design, combining the royal tradition of sapphires with the daring high-fashion edge of the 80s. It became her armor. She wore it to the White House in 1985, the night she famously danced with John Travolta. As she spun across the floor in her midnight blue velvet gown, the sapphire choker flashed under the chandeliers, cementing her image as the Queen of Hearts. But its most famous moment was yet to come. June 29th, 1994. This was the night Prince Charles was scheduled to appear in a televised documentary. For months the rumors had swirled, but tonight he would finally confess to the world that he had been unfaithful to Diana. It was meant to be his moment of honesty, a way to control the narrative. The palace braced for Diana to hide. They expected her to stay home, humiliated, the victim of a public betrayal. Instead, Diana went to a party at the Serpentine Gallery. She stepped out of the car in a dress that broke every royal protocol in the book. It was black. It was off the shoulder. It was short. It was the revenge dress. But look at her neck. She didn't wear a delicate chain. She didn't wear a simple pendant. She reached into her jewelry box and pulled out the biggest, boldest, most aggressive piece she owned, the 7-strand pearl and sapphire choker. It was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. The necklace was massive. It drew the eye straight to her face, which was glowing with a defiant, radiant smile. It drew attention to her collarbones, to her skin, to her beauty. By wearing a piece that was originally a gift from the Queen Mother, the very heart of the family that was casting her out, she was reclaiming her power. She was saying, "I may be losing the title of Her Royal Highness, but I am taking the glamour with me." The pearls didn't whisper that night. They roared. The next morning, Charles's confession was pushed to the side columns of the newspapers. The front pages belonged to Diana. The image of her laughing with that massive sapphire burning at her throat became the defining image of her independence. She continued to wear the choker in her post-royal life. She wore it to the Met Gala in 1996, pairing it with a slip dress that looked more like lingerie than a ball gown. The necklace became a symbol of her liberation. She had taken a piece of the monarchy's inventory, and fundamentally changed its DNA. It was no longer a royal heirloom. It was a woman's talisman. Since Diana's death, this specific necklace has not been seen. It is believed to be in the possession of her sons, William and Harry. Perhaps it is too iconic, too charged with the electricity of that summer night in 1994 to be worn by anyone else just yet. To wear the revenge necklace would be to invoke the full force of Diana's spirit. It requires a wearer who is not afraid of the fire. But while the sapphire choker was a triumph of Diana's own invention, our next story is about a burden she inherited. Diana proved she could create a masterpiece, but could she endure one? Next, we uncover the story of the tiara that was so heavy it made the Queen cry, and how Diana turned the pain into perfection. We are often told that heavy is the head that wears the crown. It is a metaphor for duty, for the crushing weight of responsibility. But in the case of our next jewel, it is not a metaphor. It is a literal physical fact. There is a tiara in the royal collection that is so beautiful it breaks hearts, and so heavy it creates headaches. It is a masterpiece of diamonds and pearls that swings between romance and pain. Queen Elizabeth II tried to wear it and gave up. But Princess Diana, she embraced the agony, and in doing so, she created the most enduring image of a fairy tale princess the world has ever seen. This is the saga of the Cambridge Lover's Knot Tiara. To understand the weight of this tiara, we must look at its creator. It was commissioned in 1913 by Queen Mary, a woman who treated jewellery collection as a blood sport. Mary wanted a replica of a tiara owned by her grandmother, the Duchess of Cambridge. She went to Garrard with a very specific vision. She wanted Gothic arches. She wanted lovers' knots, ribbons of diamonds symbolising eternal love. And she wanted pearls, huge drop-shaped pearls that would hang suspended from the diamond arches, swaying with every movement of the head. The result was spectacular. It was a 19-arch wall of diamonds, topped with 19 upright pearls and featuring 19 hanging pearl drops. It was a cathedral of gems. But there was a problem. It was heavy, incredibly, undeniably heavy. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited it in 1953, she tried to make it work. We see photographs of the young queen in the 50s wearing the lover's knot. She looks regal, but she also looks stiff. The Queen, a practical woman, soon discovered the tiara's dark secret. The swinging pearls created a rhythmic momentum that pulled at the hair, the sheer weight of the platinum frame pressed into the skull. It was a noisy tiara, clinking and shifting. Elizabeth, who had plenty of lighter, more comfortable options like the girls of Great Britain and Ireland, quietly retired the lover's knot. It was too much trouble. It went back into the dark. Then came 1981. Diana Spencer was about to become the Princess of Wales. The Queen, perhaps remembering the romantic name of the piece, the lover's knot, decided it was the perfect loan for the new fairy tale bride. It was meant to be Diana's wedding tiara. But in a twist of irony, Diana found it too heavy even for her wedding day. She chose her own family's heirloom, the lighter Spencer tiara, instead. But the lover's knot was not done with her. After the wedding, as Diana settled into her role as the future queen, the palace insisted she wear royal jewels, and the piece assigned to her was the heavy, swinging, headache-inducing lover's knot. Diana didn't have the luxury of choice that the Queen had. She was the new star of the show. She had to shine. And so, she took the heavy crown. What followed was a masterclass in endurance. Diana wore the lover's knot tiara to state banquets, to diplomatic receptions, to the most photographed events on Earth. She famously complained about it in private. She told friends that the tiara was so heavy it gave her splitting headaches. She said the pearls swung around so much it felt like her head was being pulled from side to side. It was a physical manifestation of her royal life. beautiful on the outside, painful on the inside. But look at the photographs. When Diana wore the lover's knot, she didn't look like she was in pain. She looked transcendent. The height of the tiara perfectly balanced her tall, statuesque frame and her voluminous 80s hair. The creamy luster of the pearls illuminated her complexion. The Gothic arches framed her face like a halo. One image in particular defines this era. It is Diana in Hong Kong in 1989. She is wearing the Elvis dress, a white high-collared bolero encrusted with pearls by Catherine Walker. On her head is the lover's knot. She looks like a modern-day Guinevere. She looks invincible. In that moment, she did something the Queen never could. She took a rejected tiara, one discarded for being too cumbersome, and she made it iconic. She suffered for the beauty of the image. By wearing it through the pain, she imbued the tiara with a sense of romantic melancholy that perfectly mirrored her own public narrative. The lover's knot became her tiara. The world forgot it belonged to the Queen. To the public, those swinging pearls were Diana's tears, crystallized. When Diana divorced Charles in 1996, the tiara was returned to the Queen's vault. It was one of the tragedies of the separation. The princess lost her crown. For nearly 20 years, the lover's knot sat in the dark, haunted by the memory of the woman who had made it famous. It seemed impossible that anyone could wear it again without looking like a ghost of Diana. But the Midas touch has a long half-life. In 2015, the new Duchess of Cambridge, Catherine, opened the vault, and she chose the lover's knot. When Kate wears it today, she wears it differently. She wears it with the easy confidence of a woman who is happy in her role. But the echo is still there. Every time those pearls swing, we are reminded of Diana. Diana proved that a jewel doesn't have to be comfortable to be beloved. She taught us that sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones that hurt the most. She carried the weight of the lover's knot so that the next generation could wear it as a symbol of continuity. But Diana didn't just endure the heavy classics. She also had a genius for finding the forgotten dusty corners of the collection and finding sparkles that no one else saw. Next, we explore how she took jewels that were considered too old for a modern girl and turned them into the height of 80s glamour. In the early 1980s, royal jewelry had a problem. It was seen as grand, stuffy, the domain of dowagers in stiff silks and white gloves. Diamonds were for old ladies, plastic and neon were for the youth. Princess Diana changed that equation. She had a unique talent for digging into the back of the royal vault, pulling out pieces that had been dismissed as too antique or too heavy for a young woman, and wearing them with such effortless cool that they felt brand new. She didn't just wear history, she updated it. She proved that a 20-year-old girl could wear the jewels of a grandmother and look like a rock star. The Japanese experiment, but her greatest act of resurrection involved a piece that was arguably the most boring item in the Queen's collection. This is the Japanese pearl choker. In the 1970s, the Japanese government presented Queen Elizabeth with a set of fine cultured pearls. The Queen, ever the pragmatist, had Garrard string them into a 4-row choker with a curved diamond clasp. It was fine. It was respectable. It was the kind of necklace a queen wears to a daytime luncheon. It had zero drama. The Queen wore it a few times in the early 80s and then, as was her habit, put it away. Then came 1982, a state banquet at Hampton Court Palace. Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands was visiting. Diana needed a necklace. She dug into the vault and found the Japanese choker. On the Queen, it was a conservative accessory. On Diana, it was a weapon of mass distraction. The choker sat high on her long neck, the 4 rows of pearls gleaming like moonlight. The diamond clasp, which looked modest on the Queen, looked sharp and geometric on Diana. She wore it again later that year for a visit to the Netherlands. And suddenly, everyone wanted a pearl choker. And we cannot speak of forgotten glamour without mentioning the aquamarines. In the royal family, diamonds and sapphires are the serious stones. Aquamarines are often seen as semi-precious, the stones of lesser royals. But Diana loved them. They matched her eyes. They matched her spirit, clear, open, and oceanic. She famously wore a pair of massive aquamarine drop earrings to the Cannes Film Festival in 1987. But the real story is the aquamarine ring. After her divorce, Diana was stripped of her HRH title. She had to return the lover's knot tiara. She had to return the royal chokers. The palace took back the diamonds. So Diana commissioned a ring, a massive emerald-cut aquamarine from Asprey. It was huge. It was bold. It was a cocktail ring to end all cocktail rings. She wore it on her ring finger, the finger where her sapphire engagement ring used to be. It was a statement of freedom. It said, "I don't need the royal sapphires anymore. I have my own blue fire." She made aquamarines cool. She took a stone that was seen as daytime and made it the symbol of a liberated, independent woman. This was Diana's gift. She could touch the dullest, heaviest, or most forgotten piece in the vault and give it a heartbeat. She didn't let the jewelry wear her. She wore the jewelry. She taught the world that you don't need to be an empress to wear emeralds. You just need attitude. She taught us that pearls can be punk and diamonds can be young. And today, as we look at the new generation of royals, we see that the lesson has been learned. The vault is open. The dust is gone. And the women of Windsor are finally following the path that Diana blazed. Next, we look at the future. We see how the new Princess of Wales, Catherine, is picking up the torch and the tiaras that Diana left behind and unlocking secrets that even Diana never touched. There is a saying in the royal family, the crown never dies, it only changes heads. When Princess Diana died in 1997, many feared that the magic she brought to the royal jewels died with her. The sparkle seemed to leave the monarchy. The diamonds went back into the dark, and the pearls were returned to their velvet boxes, heavy with tragedy. But the Midas touch is not a finite resource. It is a legacy. And now, a quarter of a century later, a new Princess of Wales has picked up the key to the Forbidden Vault. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge and now Princess of Wales, is not Diana. She is quieter, more measured, less rebellious. But she has studied the playbook. She understands the power of the resurrection, and in the last few years she has begun to unlock treasures that even Diana never dared to touch. In the autumn of 2023, Kate delivered the biggest shock to the royal jewelry world in a century. The occasion was a state banquet for the President of South Korea. The doors of Buckingham Palace opened, and there was Kate. But she wasn't wearing the lover's knot. She wasn't wearing the lotus flower. She was wearing the Strathmore Rose tiara. The gasp was audible. This tiara had been a ghost for exactly 100 years. It was a wedding gift to the Queen Mother in 1923 from her father, the Earl of Strathmore. It is a delicate floral garland of diamonds designed to be worn low on the forehead in the 1920s style. The Queen Mother stopped wearing it in the 30s. Queen Elizabeth II never wore it. Diana never wore it. For a century, it lay in the deep freeze of the vault, presumed broken or dismantled. Kate brought it back, and she wore it perfectly. Not as a flapper bandeau, but positioned high on her head, nestled in her hair like a crown of living flowers. It was a masterstroke. By choosing a piece that hadn't been seen since the Jazz Age, Kate signaled that she respects the past, but she is not afraid to dust it off. She proved that the forgotten pieces are not dead. They are just waiting for the right woman. It was the ultimate nod to the continuity of the monarchy. But if the Strathmore Rose was a gentle awakening, her next move was a roar. December 2025. The diplomatic reception. Kate stepped out wearing Queen Victoria's oriental circlet. This is one of the unwearable monsters. Designed by Prince Albert for Queen Victoria in 1853, it is a massive architectural tiara inspired by Indian motifs set with huge rubies and diamonds. It is heavy. It is loud. It is imperial. Queen Elizabeth II wore it only once in her 70-year reign. It was considered too grand, too aggressive for a modern queen. But Kate put it on, and she carried it. She paired it with a sleek red gown that matched the rubies fire for fire. She didn't let the tiara wear her. She stood tall, her posture perfect, her smile serene. In that moment, she transformed from William's wife into a future queen. She showed that she has the shoulders to carry the heavy history of the empire. It was a Diana move. It was the act of taking a piece that everyone else was afraid of and making it look like it was made for you. And then, there is the full circle moment. We have already spoken of the emerald choker, the piece Diana famously wore as a headband. For 25 years after Diana's death, it was the third rail of royal jewellery. To touch it was to invite comparison to a ghost. But in 2022, at the Earthshot Prize in Boston, Kate wore it. She wore it with a neon green dress that was bold, modern, and unapologetic. She didn't wear it on her head. She wore it around her neck, reclaiming its original purpose. But the message was clear. She was acknowledging Diana. She was honouring the mother-in-law she never met. But she was also saying, I can handle this. She took the jewel that symbolised Diana's rebellion and turned it into a symbol of the new era's confidence. She healed the wound. This is the true legacy of the Midas touch. Diana taught the world that royal jewels are not sacred relics to be worshipped in silence. They are tools. They are weapons. They are fashion. She broke the rules so that Kate could rewrite them. Because of Diana, Kate can wear the heavy tiaras. Because of Diana, Camilla can wear the massive Greville diamonds. The fear is gone. The vault is no longer a tomb. It is a treasure chest. As we look to the future, we can only wonder, what else is in there? There are rumoured to be stomacher brooches from Queen Charlotte, turquoise parures from Princess Margaret, and diamond fringes that haven't seen the light since the 19th century. Who will unlock them? Will it be Kate? Will it be Charlotte? The story of the royal jewels is far from over. The stones are eternal. They outlive the queens who wear them. They sleep, they wake, and they shine again, reflecting the light of each new generation. And thanks to the rebel spirit of Princess Diana, we know that the best way to honour history is not to keep it locked in the dark. It is to bring it out, put it on, and let it sparkle.